For decades, the SUV was Western turf, American muscle, German prestige, Japanese reliability. That war is over, and almost nobody noticed the moment it ended. It wasn't a price cut or a clever ad, it was 5 Chinese SUVs, and each one broke a rule everyone swore was unbreakable. Once they did, there was no going back. This isn't a prediction about the future. It already happened. By the end of this, you'll see exactly how the most fought-over market on Earth was won, model by model, while the old champions were still arguing about whether it was even a real fight. Let's count down the 5 that ended it. The first shot didn't come from the most expensive car. It came from the cheapest surprise. The XPeng G6 broke the rule that great technology has to cost a fortune. Fast charging that fills the battery in about the time it takes to drink a coffee. Software that updates itself overnight and gets smarter while the car sits in your driveway. Driver assistance that used to live only in cars costing twice as much. And then the price tag, which looks like a typo. Here's why that detail won a war. For a century, the deal was simple. If you wanted the good stuff, you paid for the badge. XPeng tore that deal up. It builds its own chips, its own software, its own brains, so there are no 10 middlemen each taking a cut. You pay for the car, not for the logo. And the moment a normal buyer could get next-generation technology for the price of an ordinary crossover, the old pricing structure stopped making sense. The Germans didn't lose because their cars got worse. They lost because someone proved the price was never really about the engineering. It was about what they could get away with charging you. And once a buyer feels that, once they see the same technology for half the money, they don't go back. You can't unknow a price. That's the quiet damage the G6 did. Not to one rival, but to the whole idea that premium had to mean expensive. Number 4 didn't change the market by selling millions. It changed it by destroying a belief. The Yangwang U8 from BYD's high-end brand does things that were supposed to be physically impossible at any price. It spins a full circle on the spot, pivoting like a tank to escape a corner no normal SUV could ever get out of. And if it ends up in deep water, it can seal itself, float, and paddle to safety. Now you will probably never need to turn your car in place or sail it across a flood. So why does this matter? Because for years, the comfortable story in Detroit and Stuttgart was that China could copy a car, but never lead, never invent, never do the thing nobody else had done. The U8 ended that story in a single demonstration. When a Chinese company is the first one on Earth to make a 2-ton SUV float and dance, the conversation is no longer about whether they've caught up. They're standing somewhere the others haven't reached yet. I'll be honest, the first time I saw the footage, I assumed it was faked. It wasn't. That moment, where doubt turns into something closer to unease, is the exact moment the war started to tilt. Ask yourself something. When was the last time an American or German brand showed the world a trick nobody had ever seen? Not a faster lap, not a bigger screen, something genuinely new. It's been a while. The U8 wasn't selling a floating SUV. It was selling proof of who's actually inventing now. Now we get to the one that won by quietly walking into the most emotional purchase a person ever makes. The family car. Picture the nightmare every parent knows. Empty battery, cold night, miles from a charger, kids melting down in the back seat. The Li Auto erased that fear, and in doing so, it redefined what a family SUV even is. It's electric where it counts, smooth and silent, but it carries a small gasoline engine with one job: to charge the battery when you run low, so you never have to find a plug if you don't want to. You fill up like a normal car and keep going. No charger map, no winter math, No standing in a parking lot at night, watching a slow bar crawl upward while the baby cries. For millions of families, that single decision, electric comfort without the electric fear, was the thing that finally tipped them. And then they built the inside like a private lounge. 3 rows of real seating, screens that fold down for the kids, a refrigerator in the console for cold drinks on a long drive. Western car makers spent those same years arguing about whether families even wanted electric. Li Auto stopped arguing and just gave families a car that removed every reason to say no. It didn't win a spec sheet battle. It won the dinner table conversation, the one where a couple decides what they'll actually trust to carry their children. Once you've won that, you've won the part of the market that matters most. Because a family doesn't trade in a car they trust on a whim. They buy the next one from the same maker. Li Auto didn't just sell SUVs. It captured a generation of families at the exact moment they were deciding who to believe for the next 20 years. Number 2 is the reason the war was never really winnable for the other side. And it isn't one clever feature. It's sheer, overwhelming force. BYD isn't a car maker that buys batteries. It's a battery company that learned to build cars. And today, it builds more electric vehicles than almost anyone alive. Think about what that means in a fight. When you make your own batteries, your own chips, your own motors, you control your own cost down to the bolt. So BYD can put a genuinely good SUV with its famously safe Blade battery on the road for a price that makes rivals check their math twice. That's the battery that got stabbed clean through with a steel nail and refused to catch fire. So the safety isn't a corner they cut to hit the price. Here's the part that should keep the competition awake. A rival can copy a feature. It cannot copy 30 years of being the world's battery supplier. While Detroit and the Germans scrambled to secure batteries from outside suppliers, BYD already owns the whole supply chain, and it's selling SUVs to the rest of the world while they're still negotiating contracts. You don't beat an opponent who controls the one thing you have to buy from someone else. You just slowly lose to them, quarter after quarter. And that's exactly what the sales charts now show. And here's the brutal part for the competition. BYD doesn't need to win every buyer. It just needs to keep setting the price floor. Every time it drops a good SUV in at a price nobody else can match, it forces every rival on earth to either lose money to compete or quietly walk away from that customer. That's not a sales tactic. That's gravity. Number 1. AITO. And number 1. This is the model that didn't just win the war. It planted a flag on the enemy's own hill. The AITO, built with Huawei, the phone company America tried to erase, walked straight into the luxury class, the last fortress the Germans believed was untouchable, and took it. In its home market, this Chinese SUV became the best seller in its price range, outselling the famous German luxury badges that ruled that space for generations. Let that land for a second. The buyers with the money to choose any car on earth looked at the names their parents worshipped and chose the phone company instead. Why? Because the AITO drives itself through chaos, parks itself in spaces you'd never attempt, and folds your entire digital life into the cabin with no cables and no fuss. It's the smartest, most seamless car most people will ever experience, and it happens to cost less than the prestige rivals it's beating. You walk up and the door knows you. You sit down and your music is already playing. You speak and it actually listens. The badge used to be the whole point. For decades, you paid for the 3 letters on the hood, not the metal underneath. The AITO proved the badge was a habit, not a value. And the moment customers in the most prestige-obsessed segment of all walked past the German names without flinching, the war wasn't close anymore. It was finished. They just hadn't sent the telegram yet. And think about the cruelty of how it happened. The car that dethroned the luxury establishment was built by a company that doesn't even come from the car world, a company America tried to bury. It didn't beat the Germans at their own game. It changed what the game was, from prestige to intelligence, and then won the new one before they understood the rules had moved. So that's how it ended. Not with one knockout punch, but with 5 models that each removed a different excuse. Technology had to be expensive, until Xpeng proved it didn't. China could only copy, until Yangwang proved it could lead. Families wouldn't trust electric, until Li Auto removed the fear. Nobody could beat the West on cost, until BYD owned the whole chain. And the badge would always win, until the AITO showed it was just a story we'd been told. The old champions aren't gone, and the good ones will adapt. But the era where the West simply assumed it owned the SUV is over, and it ended while most people were still looking the other way. The only real question left is how long anyone keeps pretending the fight is still on. Because the customers already know they're voting with their money in the largest market on the planet every single day. The verdict isn't coming. It's already in.